Hello and welcome, I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching NewsX World. Let's first take a look at our top stories. India's army chief visits Srinagar in Kashmir as tensions continue to escalate between India and Pakistan following the devastating terror attack in Pahalgam that left 26 tourists dead. Indian Home Minister Amit Shah is hosting a meeting at 4 p.m. to discuss reactions to the attack. Ukrainian officials in the Dnipropetrovsk region say that 3 people, including a child, have died in reported Russian strikes. This comes as US envoy Steve Witkoff arrives in Moscow for another meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin on peace with Ukraine. China has again refuted claims made by Donald Trump that trade negotiations have been taking place. Tit-for-tat retaliatory tariffs following Trump's Liberation Day have turned into a trade war, though China has proposed some US tariff exemptions. Meanwhile, China, Russia and Iran have held talks on Iran's nuclear program ahead of further Iran-US talks in Oman on Saturday. China has suggested it could play a part in negotiations as Iran signals its willingness to hold talks with Europe. Meanwhile, Iran has condemned reported Israeli military action in Gaza, calling it a concrete example of a war crime. Local media reports that the death toll from a strike on a Gaza home has now risen to 23, taking the total death toll in the enclave to over 60 since Thursday morning. Nearly 130,000 people have paid their respect to Pope Francis as he lays in state in the Vatican. Dozens of world leaders are expected to attend his funeral, which is taking place in Rome tomorrow. The UN says that Myanmar's ruling junta are continuing deadly attacks despite a ceasefire being in place following the devastating earthquake on March the 28th. A crisis monitor says strikes and artillery assaults have continued. Donald Trump is reportedly poised to offer Saudi Arabia an over $100 billion arms package in a move to normalise ties between the kingdom and Israel. The Reuters report suggests defence company executives are considering travelling to the region. In the wake of the deadly Pahalgam terror attack which took place in India, Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi has arrived in Kashmir today to assess the security situation. He has been briefed by the 15 Corps commander as per reports. He has also been briefed on actions being taken against the terrorists and the Pakistan Army's attempts to violate the ceasefire along the line of control. Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha, has urged the Army Chief to take stern actions not only to bring those responsible for the Pahalgam attack to justice, but also to intensify efforts to dismantle the terror infrastructure in the region. During a high-level security meeting, the Lieutenant Governor stated that every individual responsible for or supporting the attack must be tracked down and held accountable, regardless of their location or affiliation. Later today, the Indian Union Home Minister Amit Shah will also be chairing a crucial meeting regarding the Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan. The discussion will focus on the technical aspects of implementing the recently suspended treaty. Meanwhile, the Indo-Pakistan border in Jammu has been closed for civilians. This decision was taken by BSF authorities in light of heightened tensions between both countries. In another strong response, houses of the two local terrorists Adil Tokka and Asif Sheikh, who were involved in the Pahalgam attack, have also been demolished. Well, joining us live from the region is Brian Thomas, a correspondent with NewsX and NewsX World. He's in Srinagar, India. in Kashmir. Brian, thank you very much for being here with us. What can you tell us about the local reaction and what you've seen over the past few hours following on from this devastating terror attack?
Definitely. Now the locals have clearly, the entire locals of Kashmir have come together to pay solidarity to the attack that has happened. Very importantly, yes, the tourism is clearly very much affected after the brutal incident that happened in Pahalgam, where unfortunately 26 tourists lost their lives and 17 have been injured. We are outside the this very iconic place, which is also the Lal Chowk. You can see this clock tower ahead, and here also you can see on the left hand side, you can see the securities being all vigil, being all geared up itself. And yes, a major incident that had happened on 22nd itself that jolted Kashmir, and not just Kashmir but the entire nation. But yes, the people of Kashmir, the locals, they've come together. They were protesting against the brutality. Also to the fact, they were also saying that even not only the locals itself, the Prime Minister itself, he himself, while making an address also from Bihar, Madhubani, he clearly stated that he will identify, track and eliminate all the terrorists as well. And the Indian Army has also been deployed and they are working vigil. Two of the houses of two terrorists, Adil and Asif, have been clearly demolished. That is in Tral and Bijwara also. But here, these locations also becomes very important as well, because the entire locals here in Kashmir, they have come together to pay solidarity. Yes, definitely they have been speaking how condemning they are. They are condemning this very incident that has happened. They're speaking against it. And even yesterday itself, the locals, day before yesterday, they were celebrating that day as a black day. All the shopkeepers completely closed their shops and came on the ground to protest against the brutality, to protest against the barbaric incident that had happened at this very place. Yes, definitely, the tourism, yes, is affected, but yes, the people of Kashmir, the locals, are saying that it is their backbone that has been severely affected because of this terror attack that has rather happened in Pahalgam. Yes.
Brian, very quickly before you go, what can you tell us about this visit from India's Army Chief?
Well, definitely, it becomes a very important visit because Army Chief Upendra Dwivedi has just, in the morning itself, he has reached Kashmir, and this happened after the Prime Minister himself, spoke to the media, spoke to the public as well, and then the Army Chief today in the morning, he has travelled to Kashmir. He was briefed by the 16th Corps commander also of the fact of the situation, to understand what is going on the violation that was done in the LOC. So yes, definitely, he has been briefed, and all several assessments have been done. Even the Home Minister will also be co-chairing an important meeting. The LG also is scheduling high-level meetings. So yes, all the security personnel, all the authorities, they are working around the clock to ensure everything is proper place. And not just the authorities, the locals are also coming together to condemn this very incident, to condemn this very attack that has happened on tourists, because they feel that tourists are the backbone of Kashmir, because 80% of the business depends on tourists. People like to come to this place which is here. People like to come to Dal Lake. People like to go visit these places. But an unfortunate incident that had happened, and that jolted Kashmir, that jolted the locals, and they have come on the streets to protest against the brutality that has happened, and they speak against the brutality that has happened. They've come together to speak against it. They have even closed their shops also to mark that day as a black day. They were wearing black shirts, they were wearing black flags, they were having the black scarves also to protest against it. They were also saying that terrorism has no religion, and one should condemn all this incident that has happened, and the perpetrators should be punished as soon as possible. Yes.
Brian, Thomas, thank you very much, joining us live from within Kashmir. We are now joined by a guest. We have Sheshpal Vaid, a former Director General of the Jammu and Kashmir Police Force, who is joining us from Jammu in India. Shesh, thank you very much for being here with us. While we have, of course, discussed in depth the diplomacy and the tensions between India and Pakistan, we can't, of course, forget the people that have died in this devastating terror attack. 4 terrorists laying 26 people to death, shooting them from close range. Given your expertise, can you provide some information to us about what the scene would have been like and how emergency services would have responded to an attack of this nature?
Good afternoon, Glenn. See, this is the place of incident is about 4 or 5 kilometers away from main town of Pahalgam, and as you know, Amarnath Yatra takes place from the base camp of Amarnath Yatra, which is scheduled to happen after another 2 months by I think 3rd of July, and this place is very near that base camp of the Amarnath Yatra, and this is not connected with a road. There's a kacha pony track to go to there, where there is a huge meadow. You must have seen those videos of place of incident day before yesterday. It must be horrible scene because these terrorists came there. They had racket. It was very well planned attack, racket, and on the instructions of handlers across the border from Pakistan. I think it is not a coincidence that the army chief of Pakistan, General Asim Munir, speaks of the two-nation theory. Hindus and Muslims are different nations. We have a different all, and this incident happens after 2, 3, 4 days. And this is also not a coincidence that the Hamas terrorist senior leader, his visit is arranged by this establishment of Pakistan, which means the Pakistan Army and the ISI. A few months back, he visits POK, interacts with the Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorist outfit and also Jaish-e-Mohammed. In this incident, the involvement of terrorists is from Lashkar-e-Toiba, which is just using a local name of TRF. It is Lashkar-e-Toiba, which is actually the main terror outfit which is involved in this massacre of Hindus. These people have been identified, their identity cards were checked, their pants were removed just to check whether they have in season, circumcision, are these non-Muslims. So they have been targeted for being Hindus and for being non-Muslims. So it must be a terrible scene with no presence of armed police in that area. You can imagine how horrible this scene was. People were at the mercy of terrorists who butchered them just because of their religion. So it had footprints of Hamas type 7th October attack, if you recall, in Israel. It may not be of that scale that 1,100, 1,200 people were killed. Here we had less number of casualties, but it has all those footprints. And even these scenes were videographed by these terrorists, and they later on are released. So they had cameras. So it is just to spread terror. I think it's a very, very horrible incident where you see a small child whose both parents have been butchered, another child who does not even understand what is this all about, a newly-wed couple who was married only 5 days back had come to have their honeymoon here. So you can imagine the agony and pain of people who suffered at the hands of these terrorists, and there was no one. Many people lost their life because it was not connected by road, and local people had to carry them, and policemen and the army had to carry them, these people 4 or 5 kilometers down to the hospital. Yes. So in a kacha track, so pony track. So many people bled to death. There was no immediate assistance which they could have received, medical assistance, which would have saved their lives. So I think all this must be very, very pathetic and horrible to see.
Absolutely, Shesh. Of course, this incident has not just shocked India but the wider world, and we've of course seen responses and calls in solidarity with India during this extremely difficult time. But I do want to touch on what's next as we end this discussion, Shesh. Of course, terrorists still not apprehended, of course, uncertainty over rising diplomatic tensions between India and Pakistan. But on the ground, what will the response be from security and police forces?
See, both in Kashmir Valley and in Jammu region, there are groups of terrorists belonging to Lashkar-e-Taiba, operating in the groups of 4 to 5, 3 to 4. These numbers, there are a number of groups operating in the hills of Jammu region and also in Kashmir Valley. We need to go all out against them. Launch operation, I think, in the Indian Army, the paramilitary forces and J&K police have launched manhunt for all these terrorists. Very soon, those 4 or 5 terrorists who are involved in this incident, the efforts are on to track them down. But there's a thick jungle behind this meadow from where they have managed to escape. And I think there are difficulties to operate in thick jungle and high mountains. But still, we will be able to get some leads about their presence, and very soon you will hear that they will meet their fate and go to 72 Hurs. We will be going after all other such groups operating within Jammu and Kashmir, within the LOC and the IB of with Pakistan. I think as far as diplomatic tension, yes, government under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Modi met for yesterday, and CCS took major decisions, including keeping in abeyance the Indus Water Treaty and cancelling all the visas of Pakistani citizens, giving them 48 hours to leave. Also pruning the staff of embassy from 50, already reduced 55 to 30, expelling the defense attaches from Pakistan embassy and vice versa. And steps like this will have a diplomatic, almost you will have virtually no contact with Pakistan. And that, I think there is no need to have diplomatic tension, any contact with country like this, which pursues policy of bleeding India by 1,000 cuts and policy of Ghazwa-e-Hind, policy of, the jihad, the Islamic jihad which they pursue. I think such a country we should just boycott. Already it's isolated all across the world, and many nations have pledged support to India in this fight against terrorism. And that is why yesterday Prime Minister made a very, very important speech that we will go after these terrorists, and also against the deep state of Pakistan, which includes Pakistan Army and the ISI, who are actually the real people behind it. So unless you break the backbone of Pakistan Army and ISI, it will not have a final impact.
Shesh, thank you ever so much for joining us in this extremely difficult time. Well, we have heard from Pakistan's foreign ministry, which has warned that any attempt by India to halt the flow of Indus River waters would be viewed as an act of war. Speaking at a weekly briefing, the ministry spokesperson outlined a series of possible retaliatory actions against New Delhi. Let's listen in.
Any attempt to stop or divert the flow of water belonging to Pakistan as per the Indus Water Treaty and the usurpation of the rights of lower riparian will be considered as an act of war and responded with full force across the complete spectrum of national power. The Security Committee underscored that Pakistan, its armed forces, remain fully capable and prepared to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity against any misadventure, as clearly demonstrated by its mired yet resolute response to India's reckless incursion in February 2019.
Well, reactions and support continue to pour in following the deadly attacks that killed 26 innocent people in Pahalgam. In the latest, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has now condemned this attack and expressed his sorrow. Abbas also reaffirmed Palestine's support for India's security and stability. In a letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Abbas conveyed heartfelt condolences to the victims' families and reaffirmed Palestine's support for India's security and stability. He also wished a swift recovery for the injured and prayed for peace and prosperity for the Indian people. Prime Minister Modi has also received calls from world leaders including Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu, Japan's Shigeru Ishiba, France's Emmanuel Macron, Italy's Giorgia Meloni and Jordan's King Abdullah II. All expressed strong condemnation, condolences and solidarity with India during this extremely difficult time. In the latest development, US envoy Steve Witkoff arrived in Moscow for talks with Russian President Putin aiming to end the Ukraine war. Meanwhile, President Trump criticised the Kremlin's actions on social media, urging Putin to stop. State Department spokeswoman Tammy Bruce says both Russia and Ukraine must make concessions for peace following Trump's remarks accusing Zelensky of blocking progress over Crimea. Here is what President Trump had to say.
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace and missiles were fired. And I was not happy with it. That's what I...
In the latest development, at least 8 people have died in drone strikes across Ukraine. The attacks targeted cities like Pavlohrad, Kherson and Donetsk, killing civilians and injuring dozens. Kyiv also suffered heavy strikes with 12 killed and 87 injured. Meanwhile, Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko suggested Ukraine may temporarily give up some territories to Russia for peace. His comments come amid US pressure for a peace deal and recent Russian attacks on Kyiv. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Moscow is ready for a deal with Ukraine, though key details remain unresolved. Let's listen in to the Russian Foreign Minister.
We only target military goals or civilian sites used by the military. President Putin expressed this for so many times, and this is not different this time as well.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky rushed back to Kyiv, cutting short his South Africa trip. Zelensky says the missile that struck a Kyiv apartment block overnight killed 12 people and was a North Korean KN-23 used by Russia. Well, joining us to discuss these developments is Glenn Grant, an ex-advisor and Defence Minister of Ukraine, joining us from Riga in Latvia. Glenn, thank you for joining us. Of course, we've had further strikes reported by Russian forces. This comes as Steve Witkoff arrives in Moscow to speak with Vladimir Putin. What do you expect will come from that meeting?
Well, firstly, can I just, send my condolences to all those in the recent attack in India, and terrorism is terrible wherever it is, and you, as you know, my views on terrorism into Ukraine. It's interesting with Witkoff going again to Russia, because what we appear to have now is a negotiation between Russia and United States that does not include anybody else, and this is bizarre because you cannot have a negotiation about Ukraine without Ukraine, and you cannot have a negotiation that deals with the wider European problems without Europe. So Witkoff is going there with, you might say, with only half a deal. And the big thing that they've been talking about is getting agreement that Crimea belongs to Russia, which is an absolute no-no for Ukraine. They cannot accept that. Nobody in the country would accept it. any more than India would accept a slice of India being taken away. So we're in a challenging time at the moment.
Glenn, I want to look at a comment that Donald Trump made overnight for us, of course, yesterday in America. He said has told Vladimir Putin to stop making the statement on his Truth Social platform. Does he need to do more, and does he need to say more than just stop, given the persistent strikes we're seeing on Ukraine, arguably on Ukrainian civilians, which is something Russia has persistently denied?
Yeah, well, I mean, Russia can deny it all it wants, but the truth is there. You just see that every day that their strikes are hitting civilian buildings, hospitals, and schools, and this is a deliberate policy. This is not something that is by accident, which they seem to prevent. And even Trump said, "Oh, one of them was a mistake in Kryvyi Rih." Well, it wasn't a mistake. Let's be blunt about it. This is deliberate targeting of civilians for terror. It's a terrorist act. And Trump's comments are weak. And they only follow his attitude towards Russia, which has been subservient since his first tour of office. And it hasn't changed. In fact, it's got worse. It's like a gentle smack on the hand. There is no force behind what he's doing, and it either shows that he has no power whatsoever to do anything, or that he is actually beholden to Russia, and that he can say what he likes, but it's not going to have any effect on Putin whatsoever.
Glenn, to finish this discussion, I do want to bring up Zelensky's comments regarding North Korean missiles. We know there have been reported North Korean troops fighting with Russia on the front line. What's the significance of this North Korean involvement?
Well, I mean, the significance is that we are at war with North Korea, just the same as we're at war. The West is at war with Russia, and Russia is being bailed out by North Korea in terms of missiles, artillery pieces, a huge amount of 155 artillery ammunition, without which I think to say that Russia would actually be on its back foot, to use the cricketing term, if they didn't get the support from North Korea that they're getting.
Glenn Grant, thank you as always for joining us. We will continue, of course, to bring you all the developments from the Russia-Ukraine war. We move on now, and tens of thousands of mourners have queued for hours today to pay their last respects to Pope Francis, whose coffin will be closed this evening. According to the Vatican, over 128,000 people have already paid their respects to Pope Francis before final preparations for his funeral. Many of the 50 heads of state and 10 monarchs attending the funeral are expected to arrive in Rome today. At least 130 foreign delegations are expected to arrive and visit the funeral, including Argentina's President Javier Milei and Britain's Prince William, and a no-fly zone will be in force. Italian and Vatican authorities have placed the area around St. Peter's under tight security, with drones blocked, snipers on roofs and fighter jets on standby. Further checkpoints will be activated on Friday night. Vigils, tributes and special services of Mass have been held across the world, including Abu Dhabi, Cuba, Mongolia and Spain. Meanwhile, cardinals also met today for the fourth General Congregation. The General Congregations are a series of meetings taking place in the days before a conclave starts and where a profile of the qualities needed for the next pope takes shape. When a pope dies or resigns, cardinals aged under 80 are eligible to enter a secret conclave to choose the new head of the Roman Catholic Church among themselves. However, cardinals gathering at the Vatican have said that it is too early to talk about the conclave and that the mood at their ongoing meetings is one of trust and hope, and they are not yet making decisions but discussing details. In the latest turn of events in the US-China trade dispute, China's Commerce Ministry highlighted the importance of strengthening both bottom-line thinking and planning for extreme scenarios, with a clear focus on mitigating and managing trade risks. During a regular media briefing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun reiterated that there are no ongoing discussions with Washington on tariff-related issues. This follows earlier statements from Donald Trump suggesting that talks were underway. Let's hear what he had to say.
关于你提到的第一个问题，昨天我和商务部的同事已经明确回答了这个问题。中美双方并没有就关税问题进行磋商或谈判，美方不要混淆视听。关于你提到的第二个问题，我不了解你提到的具体情况，建议你向中方的主管部门。
Meanwhile, China has begun offering some exemptions on US imports from its 125% tariffs, asking businesses to identify products that may qualify for relief. This move is seen as a clear indication that Beijing is concerned about the economic repercussions of its trade war with Washington, according to companies notified of the changes. Michael Hart, president of the American Chamber of Commerce in China, stated that the Chinese government has been asking about US goods that are unique and crucial, which could disrupt China's supply chain. In a recent meeting of the Chinese Communist Party's top economic body, which was attended by President Xi Jinping, officials acknowledged that external economic shocks are increasing. Xinhua news agency reported that the leaders also emphasised multilateralism. Will the easing of tensions lead to a lasting resolution, or is a further conflict inevitable? Time will determine this. We bring you some breaking news, and in a significant development, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has directed all chief ministers to identify Pakistani nationals living in their respective states and ensure they leave India before the deadline. On Friday, Shah reportedly called up each chief minister, urging them to enforce the order, which follows India's decision to revoke all visas issued to Pakistani nationals starting on April the 27th. That is all that we have time for, but we will continue to bring you more of the latest breaking news from across the world.